I feel like there's not even that much to say here because everything that she says is so robotic and so pre-programmed and so completely disconnected from independent thought that I feel like I'm not even criticizing her. This is like getting mad at a canvasser for like reading out loud the contents of the brief that they're given, you know? But sure, we'll listen.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly woke.
Oh, and you can listen carefully if you want, but the rhetoric she's engaging in is covert Nazi rhetoric. It's not really that covert. The Republican Party's notion that the Democrats are like coastal elites has always been kind of like sort of subtly anti-Semitic, despite Republicans having the wealthier candidates and voters. But okay, but like just opening with the cabal, you know, whatever. Just
Who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense.
She should get checked for brain damage. Listen, guys, you guys are handling this incorrectly, okay? People in chat right now are acting as though the stuff that she's saying is sincere, okay? It's not. She's been a fascist psyop for a long time, and they are like ontologically anti-empirical. Nothing that she's saying has anything to do with reality. You might as well be getting mad at a random number generator. It's just, you know, get mad at the systems here, but for this, here, just finish the damn thing.
Of law-abiding Americans who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
I could spend time here and like point out that literally every single thing here is either too vague to be empirically disproven or is empirically disprovable. But what a waste of time, right? Instead, let's talk about something more interesting. Why doesn't this ever happen in the opposite direction? Why do you never have people who pretend to be conservatives for years while obviously being covert like liberals or leftists, and then they do like a gigantic, highly publicized, obviously being like paid off or bought by other interest announcement on how they're finally leaving the right? That doesn't really happen. There are people who leave the right, of course. I mean, people do change sides, but usually when people leave the right, it's an authentic personal transformation, right? Like, can you think of a couple of public figures who have kind of moved left with time? They're not like these highly corporate, like very obviously pre-planned, like super fake, this is why I'm leaving the right, like, you know, they usually tend to involve like some degree of self-discovery because obviously like a huge change in a person's positions does tend to entail like a lot of introspection and stuff. The reason stuff like this doesn't happen in the opposite direction is because it's two fundamental things. First of all, in order to be a conservative, you have to be dumb or dishonest. I firmly believe this. There has to be a degree of unjustifiable ignorance that simply cannot be explained away, like, you know, as like a, you know, a quirk or a, you know, absent thought. Or you have to be dishonest. Mostly, I think dishonesty, though the dishonesty thing gets a little bit more complicated when you factor in people who are, as a concept, not interested in truth, right? If a person doesn't believe that empirical truth is, like, relevant to the world they live in, that's not the same kind of dishonesty as somebody who's making the active choice to lie. There's a pretty big difference between skirting the truth and disbelieving in truth as a concept. I don't know how much of a difference that makes from the outside. Like, in either case, they're saying something wrong, but it's, you know. So that's one. The second one is, of course, like, Democrats are terrible at organizing. If Democrats were competent, then they would be dropping an enormous amount of money and effort on trying to pull people over in this fashion, you know, trying to like orchestrate these big, like pre-planned indications of, you know, political allegiance. But they don't do that because Democrats are weak and spineless. Very unfortunate that, you know, vosh.gg/map, of course, as you know. There's only so much to say, really, you know? I feel like my work, my job is kind of constrained by the limits of the degree to which the people I disagree with are even willing to engage in like the exchange of information, you know? But anti-empiricism is not only common to Republicans these days. It's actually, I think, to an extent, the default position of most people most of the time. I think for the most part, y'all paying attention? I think for the most part, most people are like not interested in empirical reality when it comes to the stuff they believe in. There's a very tenuous relationship between, okay, good to hear. Russia said it detained a few people. Skynet 015. What the fuck are you talking about? Russia's been detaining people since the Russian Federation came about. Why are you telling me this in the middle of me rambling about something completely disconnected? You might as well have told me that the U.S. a U.S. police department arrested someone somewhere. What, detaining? Detaining, that happens everywhere. What are you doing? What are any of you doing? Why are the Ukraine pigs out here? Oh, you're bored too? You're bored of the Tulsi thing? Well, you know what? I am too. I am too. Yeah, no. There's a limit to which I can pretend to be entertained by the exact same kind of dishonesty over and over and over again by people who don't have any interest whatsoever in, like, the truth as a concept. I agree. It is incredibly boring. But unfortunately, it's also like the nature of politics. So what are you going to do? Wait, this is funny. Hannity presses Tulsi on things she... Oh, look at Shu contributing to the discussion, guys. That's wow. Go to the Vosh subreddit. Shu's so bad. Shu's so dumb. Meanwhile, you festering f***ing retards like crabs in a bucket are pulling each other down to your shared demise while Shu is offering something of interest. Congratulations to all of you. Whatever standard you've set for yourself, you have failed at. Thank you, Shu. And that he presses Tulsi on the things she believes and she cannot answer. Absolutely. This is from June.
I would like America to go back to the Trump policies and secure our border. I would like to go back to the policies that America is energy independent and stop sucking up to Iran, Venezuela, OPEC, and Saudi Arabia. I would like lower taxes.
Interestingly, not Russia added there.
Not higher taxes, less bureaucracy, not more bureaucracy. Now, you're a Democrat, Tulsi. Do you disagree with any of my plans? What things I'd like to do?
We should have a conversation about each of those things, Sean. We probably agree on some, disagree on others. But
should we? All right, here's one. Should we enforce the laws at the border? Let's go through them one by one.
Of course.
Okay, so we shouldn't have open borders. We should go back to the Trump policies. You'd be okay with that?
I've been very vocal about that open borders are a threat to our own homeland security. And with open borders, we don't really have a country.
Okay, now we have a 41-year high of inflation and record high gas prices. Now, we can finish the Keystone XL pipeline very quickly, and every day we'll get 900,000 barrels of Canadian oil right into the United States. Would you go forward with that, and would you lift the restrictions that Joe Biden put on ANWR and federal land leases for fracking and oil? Would you join me in that effort?
I would look forward. I'd look forward to a plan that ensures our energy security in a way that serves the interest of the American.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, she doesn't believe in anything. It's literally just like She's like grinning, like, stop asking me specific questions. Like, my grift isn't over yet. Like, I have to pretend to be a Democrat for a few more months. And then I announce that I'm a Republican. Like, stop interrupting this. I don't know what beliefs to pretend to have during this transitional period.
People, and has done so responsibly.
Yeah, you're kind of ducking a little bit. I'm asking very specifically.
Not at all.
Keystone Pipeline, you're in favor of?
Whether it's the Keystone Pipeline or other resources that we have available here in our country,
okay, you would support opening ANWR?
Security. And done so in a way that's responsible and not contaminating water as
but I'm asking very specific questions.
This is actually incredible because right here I think you can actually see the difference between different types of like philosophical dishonesty, right? So I think that okay, both of these people are fascists, but I do think there's a difference in the kind of dishonesty that they exhibit. I think that Sean Hannity is like get my paycheck, I have my job, but I do have these beliefs kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like I think that Sean Hannity is authentically conservative. I genuinely don't think Tulsi is anything. I think Tulsi is just an empty vehicle for any moneyed interests that like move through her. Like she's like void as a person. And because the moneyed interests that have picked up on her, that have sort of worn her like a glove, are fascist, that like she will move there. But I think that Sean Hannity is like mildly frustrated that she's not being direct here, even though they're like on the same side, which is interesting. In a way, it's almost representative of the worsening of the Republican Party, because Sean Hannity is a dishonest piece of shit. But if you sat him down in a room, you could argue with him and have genuine disagreements and make him mad by challenging his beliefs, because he has actual beliefs. Tulsi, you couldn't. You never could with Tulsi. Like Dave Rubin, any discourse would flow off of her like water, because she has no attachment to the positions that she holds. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm talking about? Like, there's a difference between a partisan hack who's dishonest and somebody who is literally just empty outside of like the Tulsi would 100% align with fascists. She already has. She is currently aligned with fascists, and it is profitable to her. Do you think this could hurt her grift? This is from June. It didn't. Well, Tucker is the same way. Tucker doesn't have any real beliefs. He's literally admitted that. Like he's an ultra wealthy, like posh private school boy heir, who's admitted he'll do whatever he's told, but he pretends to be like, again, I think that Sean Hannity is a step above all of these people, and that's saying something, because Sean Hannity is scum of the earth, you know? You have to find something below scum of the earth for people like Tucker Carlson or Tulsi Gabbard. They are below that. I hold in very low regard people like with whom conversations are completely irrelevant. Like there's no actual point in talking to them because they don't believe a thing, they don't believe anything. It's purely just about like the outcome of the positions they express. It is like their substance has nothing to do with anything to them. You know, I hate people like that. If the Republican Party could be more like Sean Hannity, that would be a massive step up from what it is now, and that's saying something, because he's really bad. Yeah, but you can frustrate Tucker by calling him out for being a liar and a loser. Yeah, but that's more because he's a piss baby than anything. That's just because he's a bitch. That's not because his positions are being challenged. He's just like, you know, a bitch boy. That's different. That's not really like a positional thing.
In parts of the country.
Would you remove the restrictions and regulations that Joe Biden put on the energy sector? And that means...
Where would you rank Bill O'Reilly on the scale? Bill O'Reilly has actual beliefs. Again, Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, monstrous pieces of shit, but they do have actual things that they believe. It's just a whole different thing. Oh, that's dope, Shu. I should get one of those.
Allowing more leases to be given to oil and gas companies on federal lands. That would finish the Keystone XL pipeline, reopen ANWR, and allow these companies to do what they do best, and that's produce the lifeblood of the world's economy. Would you support me in that effort?
I support you and agree with you in energy security. I don't know specifically chapter and verse all the regulations and restrictions that Joe Biden has put in place.
Remarkable. Just nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, she went on, oh, this just came out. Tucker Carlson. Tulsi elaborates on her big decision to Tucker Carlson.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. So when Tulsi Gabbard won the Democratic Party's primary for a congressional seat in Hawaii 10 years ago, she'd effectively won the seat. Hawaii may be the one that got it immediately.
Just,
and then
as we do not have a reason
in 2016.
Just give me the
draconian sanctions.
All of
just give me
are dragging us ever closer. Always been
thank you
saying things the overwhelming majority of Republican voters believe.
Yeah, Tulsi lore. I've said this before, Shu, and I hope you agree with me that the worst thing Tulsi ever did was make Hillary Clinton right about something.
But only a Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much. for coming on. That was quite a statement. I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, we have Republicans on the show from time to time.
The main thing that gives me comfort with Tucker Carlson, the main thing that makes me not as angry with him as I could be, is the fact that even though he's an empty vessel for like billionaire talking points and he doesn't have real beliefs, there is something authentic about him. And it's that he's a fucking psychopath. There's no fucking way this guy doesn't American Psycho his way through like 3 hookers a month or something. One of these days, the contents of his fridge are going to be discovered by law enforcement. And, it's going to get out. He's like properly psychotic. Do you guys remember it was at the conservative convention, the CPAC, where he introed that section? Or no, CPUSA, not CPAC. Yeah, that CPUSA that he introed, and he had like that weird existential breakdown about how he was going to go like live in the woods or something. That was wild.
They don't put it as clearly and bravely as you do. So how do you feel? I mean, you've been in this party a long time. You were its future. You left. I mean, this has got to be kind of a fraught moment for you.
And, Tucker, as you know, I've...
Oh, yeah. Shoot. He's remarkable. Maybe I shouldn't talk shit there, though, because I can get pretty into my, like, bellowing guffaws as well. And I feel like if I was introing for something that big, I would, like, tell a joke and start laughing myself, and I'd just spend, like, 30 seconds dying on the mic.
I've always been an independent-minded person, a Democrat, yes, but an independent Democrat. And my loyalties are very clear. I love our country. And I took an oath, both as a service member, as a soldier, as well as a member of Congress, to support and defend the Constitution. And that's an oath that I take extremely seriously. And so when you look at this party, the today's Democratic Party, it's controlled.
Do you think this interview was planned? What? Are you asking if this happened, like, sporadically? Like, Tucker Carlson's studio just happened to pick up, like, a satellite signal that Tulsi Gabbard was, like, coincidentally behind? What do you mean? She just showed up. It was like, oh, like called in during a live. If by plan do you mean like, did Tulsi Gabbard have Tucker Carlson's media circuit booked before coming out as leaving the Democratic Party? Yes, this has been planned for probably years.
Controlled by fanatical ideologues who hate freedom. They despise the Constitution. They actively find ways to undermine our God-given rights enshrined in the Constitution, like freedom of speech. If you say something and I say something that they don't like, instead of saying, you know what, agree to disagree, live and let live in the traditional liberalist kind of way, no, that's not good enough. They will do all that they can to destroy you, silence you, smear you, work with big tech, work with corporate media to actively destroy anyone who dares to even question their agenda.
It's super cool how getting banned on Twitter is now like the #1 political talking point for conservatives, even though like 3 of them have been banned from Twitter. It's great.
They are against freedom of religion. They are hostile towards people of faith, people who have their own spiritual practice, especially Christians, finding ways to be vindictive, to discriminate, to punish people who happen to exercise that freedom of religion. The list goes on, but the foundation of freedom is really what was at the heart of my making this decision, that I cannot be a member of a party that is against freedom and actively trying to undermine it.
Well,
the crazy thing is, despite this being obviously rehearsed point by point, like she's reading off a teleprompter, I think, she's remarkably uncharismatic. The only time, I don't know if I've ever seen her be like authentically charismatic with any position she's held. Even the call out on Hillary in retrospect came across as kind of scheduled. She doesn't even say she's joining the Republican Party. She keeps it vague. Well, yeah, because she's a coward. Like, well, she's not a coward. She's like acting profitably, like with Tim Pool or Dave Rubin, where they'll pretend to be anything other than fascists because then like their idiot fans will be like, oh, actually, they listen to both sides. And, it's just evidence that the Democratic Party is that bad that all they do is criticize the Democratic Party and praise the Republicans.
Inspiring to hear that, but also disappointing. I mean, I feel like printing out your words and asking every Republican candidate who comes on this show to read them. And if you can't read them, I'm not voting for you. Right? I mean,
oh my God, dude, it's so fucking rehearsed. What great words, Tulsi. They're so great. I wish that all of my Republicans could say the things that you just said. Great.
Why is it so hard to say out loud? First of all, the people who are always talking about racism are committing it. Why is that so hard for people to acknowledge? It's so obvious.
It speaks to the whole environment of fear that those in power, these elitists in power, have fomented, to where people are afraid to speak the truth. They're afraid to exercise their right to free speech because, hey, you might lose your job, you might be canceled, you might be trashed, and God forbid in Washington, you might not be invited to the cool kids parties. You might not be as popular. And this is really what it comes down to, is rather than take...
This is just JQ stuff. What does this have to do with policy? Well, nothing. I mean, none of this means anything. The only, like, see, the Republicans are very simple-minded, like animals, I guess. And they don't respond to specific policy points because they don't understand policy. They don't know what it does. They don't know how it works. They don't know how the legal system works. What they care about are their feelings. And what they want to feel like is permanently aggrieved. The Republican is primarily motivated by fear that they are being... you know, like mistreated, or the fear that they will be mistreated, you know, usually both. So everything that they say, everything every Republican says all the time is essentially, we're the best people, but people in charge have treated us like not the best people. Actually, we're being treated very unfairly and very poorly, and they're going to treat us even more poorly unless we take charge and put them in death camps, you know. That's basically like every Republican speech on every subject.
Taking a stand for peace, for prosperity, security, and freedom of the American people. We have too many people in Washington who are warmongers, subservient to the military-industrial complex, and continuing to put their own selfish interests or the interests of their donors first, with no mind for the cost and consequence that their decisions have on the American people. This is exactly...
The wild thing is that Tulsi Gabbard is literally like the, I was in the military, we need to keep a strong military type. Back during the debate, she was anti-interventionist, but she wanted to keep up the fucking drone war for some reason. Biden quit the drone war. Biden is objectively less interventionist than Tulsi Gabbard pledged to be during the presidential primaries in 2020. What they mean here, by the way, what they're doing right now is the same thing. We talked about this before on stream, but this is the same like grift as the America First people back during the 1930s. Remember? The fascist movement that was like, yeah, let's fight isolationism. Oh, sorry. Let's be isolationist. Let's fight the military-industrial complex. You know, the Jews control the government. You know, like that kind of thing. Yeah, because she doesn't give a shit, right? She doesn't give a fuck about it. Also, Tulsi Gabbard is very Islamophobic. So I think she just kind of wants Muslim kids killed. You know. But anyway, this is why you always have to be wary of isolationists. Not necessarily, or I should say, don't be wary of isolationists. Be wary of like isolationism as a political tactic, because overwhelmingly it's employed by fascists as a way of A, implying that our country is governed by a specific set of elite interests, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it weren't for the fact that all the elite interests that actually do govern our country are pro-Republican and vote Republican. You know, so what other elite interests are they actually talking about, right? And B, like it's usually a way of signaling isolationism to sort of comparatively embolden other allied dictatorships. Like remember, guys, keep in mind, whenever they say like the elites, right? Like Republicans are like, oh, the elites are control. What elites? The Republicans aren't anti-big business. They're like pro-big business in every conceivable fashion. Even pretenders like Charlie Kirk, who are like, yeah, I'm anti-corporate, don't want to raise fucking corporate tax rates. It's exactly like Charlie Kirk. I talked with Charlie Kirk about this when he was signaling being like anti-big pharma. And I was like, how are you anti-big pharma? Like, I would nationalize pharma. What are you? Right. And he was like, oh, okay. And he like backed off it. When they say anti-elite, it's like a virtue signal. At its best, it's just a way of like engaging in phony populist messaging. At its worst, it's actively Jewish questioning. In this case, I think it's more that. I think we're pretty open about the JQ stuff now. I mean, we're going to talk about Kanye next because that leaked bit from the Tucker Carlson segment that didn't get aired because Tucker knew that it would be that bad, you know. Why are Jews always the bad guys? You know why? The honest reason is this. Conspiracy theorists aren't that smart, and they're going to gravitate towards the bad guy group that has the most historical weight behind it. They're not that smart. They rely on tropes, and they're going to fall into a bunch of, like, fallacious pattern-seeking behavior as a way of legitimizing their pre-existing conspiracies. And because there's already so much built-up, like, conspiracy association with Jewish people, they just gravitate towards that. It's like how the flat earthers tend to be anti-Semitic as well. Like, it all runs back to the Jews, no matter how irrational or unlikely, just because, like, they're small-minded. They're sort of simple. They're just not bright. So they just fall back on the tropes that make the most sense to them. Yeah.
What we're seeing right now with President Biden and leaders in Congress whose decisions are actively pushing us to the brink of a nuclear holocaust, of which they may have their bunkers where they'll be safe, but we, the American people, will have no shelter, no place to go, no place to hide, and face the consequences that could destroy all of humanity.
She's saying that we should abandon Ukraine and let Russia win.
In the world as we know it.
You were the first person I heard say that back in February when this all started. I believed you.
That's why I ran for president.
Well, it turns out you were absolutely right.
Fucking idiot. Oh my God. All of this was pre-rehearsed. The back and forth here, everything, it's been scripted. She interrupted him. Why?
World as we know it.
You were the first person I heard say that back.
Now this is his part, but then
back in February when this all started, I believed
That's why
you.
I ran for president.
Well, it turns out you were absolutely right. Really quick, since you did serve for so many years in the Congress, in the party you just left, you know everybody, of course. Has anyone called you today, your former colleagues, Democrats, to say anything to you?
One got in touch with me and sent me a text message with 3 thumbs up.
Extremely unrehearsed. Very, very authentic. Yeah, it was Bernie. It was Bernie sending 3 thumbs up and then kill yourself in the next message.
I would love to know who that is, but I'm glad you're influencing people. Tulsi Gabbard, I'm not going to ask you what you're doing next. We will all watch, but I hope you'll come back on the show soon. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Tucker.
Again, like, there's just not much to say here, right? Like, there's nothing real here. I'm arguing with, like, a hologram. Tulsi on JRE. Yeah, who asked if this was planned? It's not a coincidence that she had, like, all these gigantic media lineups immediately. Tulsi Gabbard on Ukraine, the military-industrial complex. Oh, my God. I can't, man. They copyright this shit now. It's DMCA. I can't go over the Joe Rogan shit anymore.
Stay tuned to what?
What? Fast.
Who's going to tell you it's okay to go outside during a nuclear blast?
Me. I would. Go die.
It is still contaminated decades later.
She's talking about, I don't know, a bathroom she used once. Can you listen to it? I think DMCA will pick up, the content ID stuff will pick up on audio as well, not just video, but I think it's more sensitive with video. Chernobyl. Listen, guys, I've said it a million times before and I'll say it again, okay? If you want to reduce nuclear threat, then you want Ukraine to win in the war with Russia. Trust me. I've said this before, but, like, holy shit, guys. If you want to, if somebody was trying to hypothetically, like, optimize the likelihood of nuclear war, okay, then take a desperate, warmongering, Putin-led Russia, fresh off the conquest of Ukraine, and make them share a border with Poland. Oh my fucking God, dude. It's like the people who are like, just let Russia win, let them take over Ukraine. Like, these people are fucking doomsayers, okay? They herald an age of nuclear war, all right? We do not want Russia and Poland to share this border. Yes, technically they already do over here with Kaliningrad or whatever, but that doesn't count. That's not real Russia, okay? You know what I mean. Right over here. They would also invade Finland. Well, they can't invade Finland now. Yeah, stop letting people get near Poland. It never ends well. The pig emote still nuked? Oh, all right, whatever. There. That was like 100 people. Wow. Release the hogs. That's how the song goes. If the cost of democracy is nuclear winter, I have jackets. Listen, I'm just secretly praying for, like, the big funny, you know? The big funny is that we all get the nuclear launch alerts. We're all told to, like, seek shelter or whatever. we all spend 20 minutes killing ourselves or having sex before we get the follow-up notification that the entirety of Russia's nuclear capabilities have like crashed inert into the Pacific Ocean. that's the big funny, okay? Everything just broke down or just fell in there. Yeah, because if that ever happened, you know, we would get like Operation Desert Storm tier progress on Russia in like no time, man. Oh my God, Russia wouldn't even exist as a country the next day. By the next morning, there wouldn't even be like a Russia. There would just be like the Pan-Eurasian NATO co-prosperity sphere or something. It would just be a NATO base that stretches from the Belarusian border all the way to Alaska. Yeah. The messages from Hawaii. Yeah. Send in the Navy from One Piece. Yeah, I got a Buster call them. One long airstrip. Yeah. Oh, wait, we keep Russia large so that you can easily land and take airplanes off from it.